Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Maybe. Hi, welcome to TFYLP episode 429. We are live tonight on Monday, May 3rd. I am Lucas, and I am joined tonight by Peter.
Forever Destron.
And Phil.
Good evening.
So tonight, we have a little bit of a smaller cast, so, hopefully our show won't be the normal 2-hour, marathon, but we'll see. We'll do our best, right?
Can't make any promises.
So, but tonight the topic is, collecting, and we've done this topic several times before. I know a lot of times we end up doing kind of like a Valentine's episode where we talk about collecting and, what your spouse thinks about it and all that type of thing. And we've done some other spins on that, but tonight we're going to kind of talk about collecting with your family, what your family collects, and so we're still going to kind of cover what they think about your Transformers collecting, but then also kind of what they collect as well, and then what your friends collect and all that type of thing too. So we'll probably be veering widely off topic, as we always do. So
this isn't the draft analysis show. I thought we were doing draft analysis.
So
I thought every show. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, that's
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Zaldrin's saying that we're quiet. Like, I've never been accused of being quiet in my life. So I can check my.
No, this past weekend was the NFL draft, and so half of the programming you turn on TV or the radio is like, let's break down the draft.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone came to us for draft analysis. So
no.
My cousin is a he's on WGN radio there.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so he's been posting stuff, but
okay,
I don't know what he's talking.
Is he like an on-air talent or a producer?
Yeah, he's on air.
No. Nice.
His name is Gabe. So
okay, I will. I'll have to see if I know. I think I know someone who works like an overnight job as a producer for WGN Radio.
Cool. They probably know each other.
Yeah. This guy, I usually hang out with him at WrestleMania parties, which haven't really happened the last 2 years.
Yeah, the last couple of years have been kind of dead.
Yeah. So.
Well, hey,
so
family finally got a quarterback, though, right?
Sure. On paper we have a quarterback. Yeah, we've had lots of quarterbacks on paper before, so it's we'll see. But I'm gonna start with well, I already started with a joke. I'll go now with the second joke. My wife doesn't collect anything except garbage in my car. That seems to be my wife's favorite thing to collect. Is when she uses my car. Is anytime I come back to my car after she's had it for a couple of days, there's a large amount of garbage in there. And I love my wife dearly, and she lets me use her car on the weekend so I can shuttle the boys around because her car's got the car seats in it. But yeah, there's a lot more garbage in my car when I get back into it than there was when I left. So I'll stop that there. I'm just venting slightly here.
I'm sure we could have her on to kind of talk about what she thinks about you and when you're borrowing her car, right?
Oh, no, because then she can talk like, all right, Phil, let's talk about all the things you actually collect and the fact that I don't like going in one floor of our house because the basement is just a complete hoarder stash of toys every which direction you look. So yeah, that's she is well within her right to make all kinds of criticisms and critiques of me, and I very firmly deserve them. Yeah, but my collecting is not 100% my fault, because my parents are super collectors. Like, my parents have almost every room of the house has a collection of some sorts in it. In the family room, they've got wild turkey decanters, which are like glass sculptures of wild turkeys filled with wild turkey whiskey. My dad has a bunch of Anheuser-Busch beer steins. That was his collection in the 80s. In the 90s, he started collecting NASCAR, like model, kind of model die-cast cars. So his whole office is full of NASCAR cars. Also in the 90s, both my parents got into Department 56 Dickens Village. So in the basement, they have a permanent setup display that my dad wired up and everything to be lit just with the flip of the switch of a whole Christmas village. That's on one side of the basement. The other side basement wall is all Chicago sports memorabilia, Blackhawks, Bears, Bulls, and White Sox pictures, autographed bats, all of that sort of thing. Then we go upstairs. My dad's office, as I said, is all the NASCAR things. The guest bedroom is where my mom has all her doll collection. So the thing I would always threaten my friends with anytime they sleep over was like, hey, don't be mean to me or you're going to have to sleep in the doll room. Then we moved to my mom's old office, which is now my dad's train room, where he has his whole model train set up and model train collection somewhat posted there. But he also has a model train club that he belongs to, which is an organization that's actually a registered non-for-profit. It's a 501c3 not-for-profit that they've set up, that they have a warehouse in a small industrial park that they put a giant model train set up in there. So he keeps some of his model trains there so he can run them on their train track.
I want to go to there.
Yeah. It's really actually really, really awesome. But yeah, that is everything my parents collect, and therefore I have collecting in my blood.
There's a in Kansas City, they actually have it down at Union Station. They have a setup there with model trains as well. That the local like train collecting club has done that too. So, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of a similar story. Like my grandpa did trains as well, and so he always had those set up. And my grandpa on the other side was like the guy that always went to auctions and garage sales and all that, and had like a zillion things. Now, on the other hand, I know we've done some shows about like what happens, or what you should do to prepare your collection for like if you pass or someone passes, or like what to do. And I feel like going through that, I shouldn't be collecting as much as I do, because it's just really hard to kind of go through everyone's stuff when you have a lot of stuff. So but yeah, I feel like I kind of have it in my blood as well for my all that Christmas stuff, I feel like that just gets out of hand really quick. Like you had mentioned about those villages, and like we started, like my aunt and uncle started buying us that, and like somehow our Christmas village has been growing exponentially for like the last couple of years, and I'm really worried what's going to happen here in a few years.
I remember when my parents started that collection. Like I was maybe 11 or 12 years old when they started, and it was just a few houses that were the main houses and characters from the Charles Dickens Christmas story, and I can't remember the name.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. Thank you. So it was like Ebenezer Scrooge's house and Bob the Cratchit's house and all of that, and it's just like the time it took for that thing to expand from it sitting on like one side table in our family room to having a whole wall in the basement permanently built out with this display. It it was not that long for my parents to collect all of that. So it was pretty remarkable in terms of that. And this was pre-eBay days.
I can sympathize with the Christmas in general and specifically the Christmas Village stuff. My mom is a Christmas fanatic, and my parents met in Germany in the 70s, and I'm from there, but I was born in the States. Like I was a ghost hanging around my dad's feet or something. I have memories of Germany that predate my birth. But anyway, that's not the point of the show. So my mom started collecting like little German Christmassy things and the Village stuff, and doing mail order to like get the Village complete or whatever. And then when they discontinued the line that she was collecting, she found one that was in a similar scale, and she has like mountains. It's not a permanent setup. She breaks it out every November, breaks it out and sets it up, and it takes up 2 walls of her display room. And it, with snow, and she hangs little snowflakes and things and lights from the ceiling, and it looks like it's, it's really pretty. But then, so everything's in scale, and she's got little people on ice figure skating things and lights and all the street lights and all that stuff. And then I guess the next line that she had been working on got discontinued. So now she just added in the Harry Potter collection. So now there's like a Hogwarts and a Gringotts with a dragon on top, and all the stuff, Diagon Alley and all the things. So there's like Christmas Village, Christmas Village, Christmas Village, Christmas Village. Oh my God, what is this? And then in every room of her house at Christmas time, for the month before and the month after, she has different themed rooms, different trees, different ornaments for the tree, different themed rooms for every room in her house. So Christmas is her thing. She also collects precious moments. She was doing those in the 80s, the little dudes, the little.
God, I forgot about those things.
Yeah, she's got a few hundred of them, like a wall full of them, and the big dolls. And we went to. I used to live in Arkansas for a little bit, and in Missouri, there was the Sam Butcher Precious Moments Museum and Chapel. It was like the Precious Moments like tourist trap, and they had exclusive stuff there. So we took a road trip to the Precious Moments thing, and she bought all the exclusive stuff, and some of that's expensive now, and a lot of it's not. No. But her dad, like Lucas, you were mentioning your granddad that went to auctions and garage sales and just bought everything. That was my mom's dad. He bought everything. He had a collection of stamps. He had a collection of coins. He had a collection of guns. He had a collection of newspapers, like important newspapers. Just stuff. And when he died, they went through all of his stuff, and he filled the basement with all of his stuff, filled the upstairs with all of his stuff, and they built a detached garage so we could put more stuff in there. So I sympathize with that, except I only do Transformers and Mask and Motu and G.I. Joe and Brave. Yeah. And my dad, he collects things, but it's mostly like personal things, letters. He has every document he's ever gotten all filed away nice and neat and whatever. So I think I have a blend of both my parents, like my mom, like just going ham on whatever her collection is, and my dad's like trying to precisely file the important stuff. Yes. Christmas.
Yeah, I did forget one other collection my dad has, and this one is also outside. It is their Christmas outdoor, decorations for my parents live on an acre, and so the whole front yard around Christmas time is all filled with blow mold Christmas decorations that my dad pretty much takes the entire month of November to set up. And he's won awards for it. So last year was the first year they had it synced to music, and you would turn into a radio station. They had a mini broadcaster for playing music as you would drive by, and you could listen to Trans-Siberian Orchestra and see all the lights blink, accordingly to that. So yeah, the amount of specifically blow mold Christmas decorations that my dad has fills an entire shed in our backyard.
That's really cool. I like seeing stuff like that. I like driving the kids around to see stuff like that. And you see it less and less now. So it's neat to see. Not everyone does it anymore. Not everyone decorates as much as they used to.
See, that's the thing. Like around here last year, I feel like a lot more people decorated in 2020.
Well, last year was a special case because everyone was home. They could plot, they could plan their strategy. You know, it wasn't like we're working all the time. I mean, you're working, but you're working from home a lot of us.
I'm curious to see if 21 will have as much, if the blocks will be as well lit up as they were in 2020.
It'll be interesting to see. I hope it like reinvigorated that spirit. Not like, you know, competitive, but like all of us, let's all do something and make the neighborhood look nice for Christmas. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Or for the holidays.
Yeah, just light things up, because once you get to January, all right. Florida is not the case, but in Illinois, you know, January is just cold and dark and depressing. So at least December, having all those lights, it's like, oh, this is nice. This is pretty. Yeah, because going back to football, you know, Illinois in January is like, hey, the Bears just lost, and the Bulls and Blackhawks are. So, yeah, this stinks.
Huddles. I have Huddles figures. Do you remember Huddles figures?
No, I don't.
No.
Okay, early to mid 80s, it was a series of anthropomorphic like football dudes, and they had a series of books that accompanied them and a series of dolls that accompanied them. And I have
I think I remember. They were like sort of like pudgy versions, like if Pat Lee drew football mascots.
They're chunky,
marshmallowy. Yeah,
they look like I'm thinking like through the filter of 80s. But if you ran your mascots through the Cabbage Patchifier.
Yes, I do remember those now. Yeah,
I have the bear doll, and then there was a bear's cheerleader doll, and then I have a couple of the books. And then for one of the book fair things that we did in 86 or 87, I dressed up like a coach just so I could carry around my bear stuff. So that's another mini baby collection. Those things, I don't think they took off because no one knows what they are.
No. Even like a hardcore collector like myself had to like drag the bottom reaches of my brain to remember that.
They're in there.
Yeah.
Oh, Nerfels. Do you remember Nerfels?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So those are ones. That's another collection my dad had briefly in the 80s, and it was only around for a couple of years. They were by Tomy. They were called Nerfels, but they weren't like Nerf related. They were released by Tomy in the U.S., and they were heads that they bounced, and you could put a hat or hair on them, and they had a little body that you could pluck them in, and then you could swap the heads out into vehicles or other bodies. And there were like play sets that were all modular with ramps and stuff. They were only around like 85, 86, I believe. And then he had that collection. Like he got the whole set except for one, which I have here. And it was a mail order figure. And then there was a second wave that wasn't released, but around 2008, 2009, like proof test shots and things like showed up on eBay by the dozens, and I missed all of them. Yay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And those command stupid amounts of money. But then when my parents got divorced, he took the collection and he displayed it in his house when he lived by himself. But then when he got remarried, he put it in his office, and then he got in trouble for putting it in his office. So now it's in a box somewhere.
Why did he get in trouble?
Because his wife didn't want him to put up anything that his ex-wife bought him.
Oh, those kind of dynamics.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that, you know, when people are like, oh, you're into Transformers or whatever, and they kind of look at you a little bit, feeling like not necessarily the people that are collectors, but, you know, just...
I lost half that sentence there.
Yeah, both of us. They look at you a little differently. Look like...
Well, like where, you know, certain people might look at you differently, but like, I feel like pretty much everyone collects something, you know, so it may not necessarily be Transformers. It might be, you know, like you said, like trading cards or Nerfels or Christmas stuff like decorations or, you know, beer steins or just whatever it may be. So like that's the thing is I feel like that everybody kind of has their lane that they get in. you know, with it. And a lot of it is from our childhoods and whatnot too. So.
Yeah, I did forget my dad also collected baseball cards through the 70s and the 80s. So yeah. Yeah, my dad has a lot of collections. Like just listing them all out, it's like, wow. Yeah. He's got a lot. Like I'm giving him a run for his money and probably have surpassed him in just like sheer number of things I have. But it's just like, wow. Yeah, that is where I get that. Like I remember as a kid, the Technobots had just come out. And I don't think I had ever seen them before. And I saw Afterburner at a service merchandise and was like, and next Afterburner, I think was like First Aid. And at the time, I think I had maybe 2 of the Protectobots. And my dad was just like, I was like I'm buying Afterburner. Just shut up and take my money as a 6-year-old, whatever it was. And my dad's like, but you got to finish the Protectobots. You got 3 of them. There's a 4th one here. Why aren't you finishing the Protectobots? Like, because future motorcycle thing that is just amazing. But it was like this whole idea that you need to finish the collection. Like that was something that like my parents told me. That I feel like if I said that to my son today, my wife would just be like, why would you put that idea in his head? Why would you program him to think he needs to finish a collection? Because like, you know, in the 80s, there seemed like there would be a finite end to this. And then we realized that no, there is no ending. It keeps going. So,
which Nick loves. Just he's not here, but just to bring him up, Nick loves that it's never going to end.
Right. Yeah. My wife, on the other hand, is just like, when will this end? Like, no.
Yeah. Well, I think I talked about that before. Like when classics came out, you know, I don't know. What is that? 15 years ago now?
Yeah.
And it came out, and I was like, yeah, you know, I'll just get these few, honey. Don't worry. You know, and she was like, when's it gonna end? And you know, that was 15 years ago. So you know.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no ending, and I don't think any parent saw back then that it wouldn't ever end, because in the 80s, you know, our parents. Like the stuff that they collected ended. Like G.I. Joe ended definitively, you know, for a decade plus, I want to say. You know, maybe it existed in some form.
They had Super Joe. There was a middling era where it was like Adventures of Joe, and then they shrank him down to about 8 inches. And it was like Super Joe and Friends, and then that went away. And then it was gone for about 5 years altogether before Real American Hero picked up.
Yeah. But there at least seemed to be, and like there was nowhere near, even in when our parents were growing up, to the volume of stuff that came out in the 80s. Like the 80s far surpassed the volume, and now we far surpass the volume of the 80s. So yeah, for a parent of a child in the 80s say, well, why don't you try and finish that collection? It seemed like a feasible task. And it was like when my parents would talk about it as a kid to me, it wasn't like I would want to buy something new, and they're like, no, why don't you finish this other collection first? And you know, you can't start another collection. You know, I you know, they wouldn't let me buy other toy lines because, you know, no Silverhawks because you've decided you're going to go Transformers and G.I. Joe.
I can relate to that somewhat. I got random one-offs. Like I got 85, I got some Wheeled Warriors, a couple things. 86, I actually had a mask birthday, so that was the theme for that birthday. Transformers were 86 for Christmas. He-Man was 83 Christmas. I mean, so there were like thematic things, but my mom was really good about. My mom's she likes sets, and we do the same thing with the kids now. If you're into a thing for your birthday or for Christmas this year, you're gonna get pretty much the assortment that's out now. Just finish it. So I was able to get 87. I got all Joes. 87 was the Christmas of Joes, so I got most of the vehicles for that year, not the Defiant. There was a line, all the smaller vehicles, Battle Force 2000, all the normal carded guys, and a couple of middling sized vehicles. But like in 86 was Transformers and stuff, so and Mask. So I got like most of the runs for that particular year. So there was line hopping, but it came in seasons or waves, I guess. I don't know. I lost my train of thought there. Yep, that's what I did.
So, like with Transformers collecting, like how many local friends do you have that collect Transformers? And like, do you think that you would be as into them as you are if it wasn't for like the internet and social media?
No, I got introduced to Paul through another guy, and so Chicago's got a good size group of guys that are pretty rabid Transformer collectors. There's a pretty tight knit group of us. Obviously, we're not the only ones that collect Transformers. We know there's other guys. There's Facebook groups that we belong to for collectors who are kind of into Transformers, but kind of into wrestling and Marvel Legends and all the other stuff. But I remember when I first met up with those dudes, and I was just like, unless it's a Titan scale thing, I don't want to spend more than $100 on a toy. And you can see on the shelf behind me the MP style toys that are just like, yeah, there's the vast majority of these shelves are over $100 per figure, and it's just like I broke that rule very quickly, based upon the peer pressure after hanging out with this group. So yeah, they Paul and his crew very, very heavily influenced me, and I went along willingly because yeah, these are awesome. I do want these things, and fortunately for me, my income was increasing at the time, and I can afford it. But yeah, I probably can place some blame on those dudes for Serge and Paul and some of those other guys for how far down this rabbit hole I've gone.
Yeah, I feel like I would not have been into it as much as I have, just because, I don't know. I might have. I know that there's, the local Comic-Con and whatnot. I met some of the guys there, but getting into it at the level that that we have, I don't think there's any way I would have done that if it had not been for the social media and all that type of thing. And I think a lot of the local collectors I have met, like you, Phil, have been people that I've met on social media. Just because. Obviously, everyone has different hobbies and things like that, so.
In my local area, I was afraid to talk to anybody for years, decades. But I worked at a used toy store. I used to skip school and go to this used toy store, and the proprietor would let me hang out. And she had some mobility issues, so I would help sort toys, because I knew every accessory to every toy line from the 80s, because that was just how my brain worked, and move boxes around and set things up on the thing, and she would pay me in toys. So I would talk to anyone that came in looking for Transformers. So I was able to build a small network in the 90s, and I'm still friends with most of those guys. A couple of them disappeared forever. But I still know and interact with most of those guys today. In the 2000s and on, I don't know. Yeah, but there was about 15 years there where I just didn't talk to anybody because I was just in my head, but I was still collecting, so I was buying everything. I've been buying everything I possibly can since the early 90s, since allowance and stuff, and driving myself to get everything, because I made a promise to myself in 1984, staring at that fold-out poster, that I'm going to have every one of these one day. So, brain. But it wasn't until I won't say it increased my purchasing, but it did increase my avenues for purchase. So I was able to, I have all these new contacts and things over the past 8 years or so. 2013 is when I came out and was just like, I'm going to talk to everybody. I'm going to talk to everybody, and I don't care if they think I'm freaking crazy, because I kind of am, and that's just, they're going to have to deal with it. And most people do. Most people are great about my quirks. I like Transformers, and I like talking Transformers like a whole lot. So as far as local guys now, there are a couple guys that I've reconnected with or met semi recently that have been really great, and then there are a couple of local guys that are straight scalpers, and I don't like them. And they know that I'm the the Wiggy Transformers guy I'm not here to buy all of the red line things, like 6 of them, so I can resell them at the flea market. I just want one of each, and I want to talk about how this figure is cool or not or whatever. Yeah, robots.
Wait, one of each? I thought it was like one to open and one to keep sealed, right?
Depends on the figure. I'm not opening those red things.
Oh, okay.
If they come out with a red Zaron, or they come out with a red Alpha Trion, or they come out with a red, I don't know, somebody else scrounge, like a scrounge that looks like comic book scrounge, I'll buy it there. But red Prime RC, she's staying in the box.
Right.
That's the only one of those that I've been tempted to get, because I feel like she is. You don't have a toy that as accurately represents her on the screen as the red one does. But yeah, the red Optimus Prime, the red Megatron, the red Soundwave is like I've got toys that look just as good and they actually transform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would go for a full run of red line fembots. That would be great.
Yeah. Or Super 7.
Yeah, or Super 7. Bring on Nautica. Where's my Nautica? Where's my Velocity?
Yeah.
Just let's do it.
Well, I've been really surprised that with those model kits from Flame Toys that they haven't done more of those. I mean, and maybe they will. I know Windblade is one that's coming out, like, or did it come out already? I can't remember. I haven't.
The
really
pace
been
on those
following
slowed down
those.
considerably. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, I saw a lot of those on clearances at a bunch of the toy websites. So I don't know if the numbers were what they were looking for on them.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I feel like part of it is, again, that there's been so much at one time that it's kind of come out. So, the fact that, like, Hasbro's doing this red line now, and there's some other examples in Super 7 and whatnot. So I think that, there's plenty of different things for people to collect. And so some of the stuff where, when it first came out, you're like, oh yeah, this looks great. Like, that, people may not necessarily be as into the line as what they once were. So, and I think sometimes too, like people like me, where you might buy one kit just to see what you think about it. And then you decide, I don't know if I have the time or just whatever, and you get out. So.
Well, tastes change, priorities change. That goes with any of the sublines, whether it's the Flame Toy stuff or just Siege and Earthrise and Kingdom. How many times can we buy a Wheeljack before you're just like, I love Wheeljack, but other collectors might not want Siege Wheeljack, Netflix Wheeljack, Kingdom repackaged Wheeljack, or whatever. Red Wheeljack if he comes out. That's not me saying that there's one coming out. I'm just saying, just gee whiz.
Right. So,
I think one of the things that's interesting. Go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Phil.
I think one of the things that I've found kind of interesting is that I've been, reading and collecting comics for almost as long as I've been reading collecting Transformer stuff. My comic book shop, you don't have as many people standing around and chit chatting. And I don't know if that's just my comic book shop or comic book shops in general. Now, my comic book shop that I go to is a pretty large one. They've got a big gaming section, a big pop section. They've got model kits. And so, any person who's walking in there, there's a pretty good chance they're not in there for the same thing that you are. So, there isn't as much chit-chatting. But almost every time I walk into one of the collectible toy stores, like, people are there to just kind of hang out and shoot the shit. And honestly, it was kind of, with COVID and everything, it was kind of like, oh, you got to limit capacity and you kind of got to shuffle people out. I mean, I get it. You still want to, run a business and do all that. But that was something that the toy shops were much, much more places to just talk about your fandom and talk about your collection and what you liked, and seeing something that someone else was buying, like, oh, that's not a toy line I've gotten into, or like I've seen pictures of that, but I haven't seen them in person. Man, that's neat. Like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I can see why you have chosen to. So yeah, I mean, it's, again, toys are more tightly knit, but you know, I don't collect wrestling toys, but I can still appreciate, you know, a decent looking wrestling toy.
Well,
Fun,
yeah,
fun.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, fun sidebar. I make Joe customs too, and there's a lot of like dudes that do casts of like wrestlers' heads, which work really well for just rando one-off cannon fodder characters, or for, you know, ones that Hasbro reuse the same head multiple times. You're like, no, you're supposed to have different heads. You get the Mrs. head now. Bloop. So anyway.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like comic books is one of those things where, you know, it was a lot bigger, you know, back in the day, and then people, I feel like, have transitioned to like physical objects more, I guess, than it really seems like that. You know, even when you see a lot of the Comic Cons and whatnot, you don't see people buying comics. You see them buying, you know, statues or pops or, you know, various toys and things like that too. So,
Well, I think some of that comes from the fact that comics have so successfully overall made the jump to the big screen, and now it's like not just, I mean, in the 90s, yeah, everyone was into comics, and then it fell out in 95, 96, whatever, when the market fell apart. But now that everything is, you know, everyone knows who Iron Man is, everyone knows who Groot is, you know, whereas 15 years ago they might not have. It wasn't in the cultural zeitgeist. So people are collecting these things now, and they want a physical representation because that better represents who the character is to them, as opposed to, I have a comic in a drawer somewhere that has Groot in it, or whoever their flavor is. You know, I think just the way comics are thought of culturally is changed dramatically in the last 12 years.
It has been interesting to see a resurgence in the last couple of years of the comic book collectible market, because that was something that fell off significantly after the 90s. And then say in the last 2 or 3 years, maybe longer, I just recently became aware of the recent variant cover, you know, resurgence and like how high priced some of these newer books are coming. And it's just like, wait, what? This stuff is worth money again? And I don't know if that's a 2020 bubble kind of deal, or if that's, you know, like the new reality of, you know, yeah, there's collectors markets for comic books again.
I think that comes in waves. Right now we're in a good spot with lots of fun variant covers and lots of like good output. If I wish Nick were on this one, because he would speak to where the comics market is specifically, because he's got lots of insider knowledge on that. But I think it comes in waves. It ebbs and flows, yeah. and I think we're just in a good spot right now, especially because of, and it sounds stupid, but because of COVID, people have time to sit at the house and reread their comics or order new comics. You know, shops are open. Like you said, they've got capacity limits and all that. You can still go in, mask on, buy your books, and then roll out. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to stick around and chit chat in most cases, but you can still get in, get your books, and go home and enjoy them.
Well, you know, I'm always amazed to, like, myself, like, you know, as much as I'm into Transformers, a lot of the stuff I kind of miss and don't even realize, like, what is crazy hot. Like, I know Paul will ask me that, or Phil, or whatever. Like, you're like, oh, did you get this Marvel Legends or something? And you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that, you know, that was a thing. But I had a recent example where my kids really wanted, there's some Fortnite comic book that came out with Batman, I think. Mm-hmm. And like my kid was like, hey, you know, can you get this for me? Sure, no problem, buddy. I'll run down to the comic shop and go get it. So I went down when the day that it came out, and the comic shop's like, oh yeah, no, we sold out like immediately, like right when they opened and all that. So it's like I had to like kind of go back and tell my kids like, sorry, you know, I didn't realize this was coming out, so I didn't put it on my pull list and all that type of thing. So
let's get out the Comixology app on Daddy's tablet and read it there.
Well, the problem is that like you got a skin with it, if you
Oh,
if you did the thing. So that, I think that was probably why my kids wanted it.
yeah.
Or whatever too. So, but
My local shop, when it's like free comic book day or whatever, like the line goes around the block, and people are not just getting, the 5 or 6 free books because you got to be cool. Don't grab one of every free book. Grab your 5 or 6, but they're also buying boxes of stuff. So collecting, I don't know that everyone's like out about it, or they might say that, oh, I'm a whatever collector, but they might not fully be revealing what it is they're doing. So it's not just limited to us or to our families. It's out there. People are collecting stuff a lot.
There is a scene in the 21 Jump Street movie with Channing Tatum and I forget the other actor's name in that movie.
The super bad guy.
Yes, the guy from Superbad, where like they go back to high school and they point at some guy and they're just like, oh, like we're gonna be the cool guy jocks, whatever. We're gonna make fun of the other kids, and they call him, a homophobic slur, and they're like, yeah, I am gay. Why are you making it? Why are you saying it like that? And it's just I feel like the idea of saying like I'm a geek has almost, and I think in a lot of areas kind of gotten to that point as well, where it's like, you not everyone is, but you have a large enough demographic of people who are, that it's like you're not ostracized as much as you were. Like there was a dude in my office in my last job was like, I've never seen any of the Marvel movies. And I'm like, George, you're in the minority. Like you're not like the dude who's too cool to see all this. Like there are billions of people who have seen at least one of those movies. So for you to say you haven't seen a single one of them, you're the outsider.
Kitty agrees.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, and that's true. But like I guess this maybe flip side, maybe not. You'll see people that'll have like they have 6 pops in their collection. Like, oh my god, I'm such a nerd. And it's like, maybe
Yeah.
you might think you are.
You're nerd curious.
You're nerd curious. There you go. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to collect something if you even just want to dabble, put your toe in on the pops or the comics or the Transformers, or you don't have to go completely, batshit on it. Just have fun. Collect what you want to collect. If you want to collect, trains, I think are great. That's one that I cannot get into because I will want to make a room for trains. I will want to build mountains and put lights and do all the things. I had a friend in junior high and high school, and that his parents split up, and that was like their weekend project was he and his dad would work on the train set. They never finished it, but it was nice. Like as far as they got before they took it all down, I was like, wow, this is really, really impressive. So I've got the Transformer Tycho train set. It's not as involved.
Yeah, I really want to take some like my Marvel Legends toys down to my dad's train club and take pictures. Like I want to recreate the Jim Lee 1990s X-Men #1 cover, like in the mountain spaces that they've built for his train club. And I've got the Marvel Legends to do it. And I'm pretty sure I could do a fairly decent job. I probably couldn't get all the perspectives right of recreating that iconic multi panel cover.
Well, yeah, it's like 6. Is it 6 or 7?
I think it's 4.
Was it 4?
It was 4
with Magneto
covers.
doing like this.
Yeah, Magneto doing that was the last one. Cyclops, Wolverine, and Iceman was the one next to that. Then you had Colossus, Jean Grey, and I think Archangel was on that one. And then the other one was like Storm and Rogue and whatnot. The first 2, I think I'm jumbling up the characters. The third one and the last one, where it was Cyclops, Wolverine, and Iceman, and then Magneto on the last one, are probably the 3 that stand out the most in people's minds.
Okay. I'm just misremembering.
And at that time, it was still Wolverine in the brown and yellow costume.
Yep.
And it was like because most people think of the 80s or the 90s X-Men, they think of the black and yellow and blue underpants Wolverine, but he hadn't gone back to that costume yet for maybe like 6-7 months after that first issue came out. So you still had the brown.
Yep. They had the Asteroid M stuff, and then they had the Omega Red stuff, and then he switched outfits.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was at the start of the Omega Red arc that he switched outfits.
So that was issue 5. maybe.
I feel like there was something in between there, but yeah, it was somewhere around there. And I was slightly confused with that storyline because the storyline starts off with like, well,
Talking about the submarine.
Right. But there was also something about like they like took Wolverine's mask and left it behind to either like blackmail him or something. Like, oh, I don't wear that mask anymore. Like, wait, you just were wearing that mask. You're not. When did you switch? I must have missed that issue. So yeah.
Go down to the train club. Take the pictures. I want to see.
I once all the COVID stuff lifts, I will likely try and do that.
Sweet.
Yeah. So again, I've got the Marvel Legends. When we did the Microcasters episode for Expanse, I had them all lined up here over my shoulder. So yeah, the Marvel Legends has done a really awesome job in the last 3 or 4 years. It's just like, hey, a lot of the people buying these are in their like 30s and 40s, and they have got a real soft spot for those 90s costumes. Like, let's just make all of them. And it's just like, wow, money, toys. So yeah, they've finished that X-Men team. They're close to finishing that X-Force team. They're close to finishing that X-Factor team. And it's just like, yeah, just give it to me. Just give it to me. Give me my Feral. Give me my X-Force Feral. Back to what my parents said. I need to finish that collection. I need to finish that team.
Well, X-Pants did not have that same fate as some of those Marvel Legends. He does not seem to be selling quite as well. He went on clearance.
X-Pants was half off.
Still
half
is.
off X-Pants. Yeah. There's a lot of jokes that come to mind with that.
if you want some X-Pants. But Zaldra in the chat says that, when the train bots come out, that you can make a nice train room with those guys. So
Okay. So my Diaclone train bots, my Headmasters train bots, my Zone train bots, or are we talking the Moon Studio ones, or the Masterpiece ones that are coming?
What about the
I'm
RID
assuming
ones?
they're referring to the Masterpiece
RID
ones that are coming out, or whatever the Takara ones are. That those unnamed ones that, like, have there been any updates on those?
They did a slight update, I think, in Figure King or something. They just made it was a little blurb, like, don't forget this is coming out, you guys. The show where they were supposed to have the big reveal didn't happen for obvious reasons,
Right.
but don't forget about it because it's happening.
Yeah, because I definitely would like to see more train bots, and that's one thing I don't know why Hasbro hasn't done more of. I don't know
Because Americans don't care about trains. Typically, Americans they don't live on trains. They don't commute by train. Most of us Americans don't give a hoot. They want to see Optimus Prime doing things and Bumbletown doing whatever.
And
Yeah,
those
but,
of us
like,
who
you have
do live
kids
by
with the-
trains, but those of us who do live by trains, it's just like they're boring looking now. Trains aren't cool looking like they used to be back in the day. Like Thomas the Tank Engine, like and all the different characters in Thomas, those looked like interesting trains. Now it's just like this. How many millions of Americans use some mass transit, like the subway or the CTA or whatever they have in your city, but those are not interesting. Yes, it's a silver tube.
Oh, there's a collection that my Lucas, you saw. I told him good night before, just as the show was starting.
Silver tubes?
No silver tubes, but
okay.
My kiddo, before he got into Transformers, he was on Thomas, and he had everything except Charlie. We couldn't find Charlie in the proper assortment, but he had like 40 of the freaking things, and tracks and stuff, and Imaginext. He had like all of the superhero Imaginext from like 2009 to 2014, and then he at 6 years old was like, I'm going to sell all this. I don't want this collection of stuff anymore. So he sold all of it and I helped him on eBay, and he made hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
And then he bought a bunch of Transformers and it was like, okay, pretty sweet.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
My kids did not do the same thing. So we still have a bunch of our Thomas trains, and I think there was a Disney show too. I can't remember what it was called.
There have been a couple train shows, and Yeah, like I've got my older son, and then I've got a 1-year-old who will likely start playing with the Thomas trains in the very near future. So if we did decide to sell them off, like I don't know which one would get the money. That's a tough thing. I should probably just keep it myself then. You know, Zaldron, said that steam engines are cool, diesels are not. Like, I don't know if you guys with the Thomas thing saw, like, there's the movie like Day of the Diesel. Like the diesel engines in the Thomas, whole world were the bad guys for the most part. There was some good guy diesels, but a lot of the diesels were the bad guys. So I think you're right there, Zaldron. Yeah, diesels are not cool. They're mean. They kidnap other trains.
But again, that's the thing. I feel like there's this whole like kid market that had Thomas, or and whatever. And if if they would just like release Transformers like that are trains, I could see them kind of being the next step. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just.
I could see that in like a Rescue Bots sort of thing.
And I would buy that too.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I want to get the Fans Toy Thomas, is because he turns into that steam engine.
So Phil, do you think you're going to be able to get your kids into Transformers?
My older son is. He has ones that he, are his favorites. He likes when we build the big cities, in the living room, when we get like all the city bots up and, connect all of that stuff. When he has money, when he has cash, he's buying typically Power Rangers or like vast majority is Legos. Some Power Ranger stuff he likes. For him, he doesn't have to buy Transformers because guess what? I'm buying it. So he doesn't, and the vast majority of the stuff I buy, I let him play with unless it's like third party or Masterpiece. But yeah, I mean, he's into it. He's watched a lot of the Transformer shows. But his big thing is Ninjago. Ninjago is his main, tap into the veins right now kind of thing. So, and he knows a lot about Ninjago. Like he's got, like one of those Ninjago Lego, like source book kind of things. And he's, looked through that dozens of times over. And, he likes some of the, Star Wars Legos and Batman Legos, and we're reading Harry Potter. So he likes those a bit now too, but like it is Ninjago. And that's a show that's been on for 10 years now. So that's got a good chunk of, product that's out there, to the point that they are doing like re-releases. They're doing new versions of, Lego sets that came out 8 years ago. Lego's making new versions of some of those sets. Because you can watch all of Ninjago on Netflix. So my son can go and watch, for him, he doesn't know that if he's watching, a Ninjago episode from 8 years ago, that to find that toy is going to be like, yeah, it's a $300 set on eBay now. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. My kids had that same issue with Power Rangers, where like they were all on Netflix, and like they'd be like, "Oh, Dad, can I have that toy or whatever?" And you're like, "No, I'm sorry, because it's some ridiculous price on eBay, or I can't even find it at all." So yeah, that's the thing that's kind of tough with this like whole Netflix thing.
Yeah, my son likes I've bought him some, and he's bought himself some of the Hasbro Lightning collection, and Hasbro's done a good job with that line of doing Power Rangers from throughout the decades of that show. So like, I don't know why my son got hooked on this one so much, but like Power Rangers SPD is like one of the shows that he's watched the most of. And then he's got almost that entire team. And I think that show was from like 15 years ago or so is when that one first aired. So yeah, that's a team that he's, really likes. So, I just found the Pink Ranger for him for a pretty good price at the local toy store. So below retail. I was very happy for that. So, but yeah, that Hasbro, at least from that standpoint, has done a good job of allowing folks to buy toys for shows that haven't, actually aired or anything for, in some cases 25 years. So what other things are your kids into, Lucas?
Oh, I think my kids are in everything that's not Transformers. I don't know. They watched a lot of that stuff years ago, or at least my oldest did. And so he consumed all of G1 and Beast Wars, and then it was kind of, but that's kind of like the story with a lot of them. Like they went through Ninjago phase and a Thomas phase and a Paw Patrol phase and like all that kind of thing. And then, yeah, so like they went through the Transformers phase and they're kind of done with it. So yeah, so now they're like into, more into Pokemon and, different anime stuff that's on, Netflix and whatnot and all that. So it's, like, I don't know. I know Peter sometimes is like, oh man, I wish my kids were into Transformers is what yours is.
Mine is like my oldest. She lives with her mom, and Transformers are banned in that household. Which whatever. She used to collect Monster High, and then that all got disappeared in a move. They moved from one place to another, and all the Monster High stuff disappeared. My middle, the boy, he loves Transformers. He has. I mean, if I met him when I was his age, I would have been completely blown away by his collection. Completely. He missed Metroplex out of like classics type stuff. And when he gets a new character that is a character that he already has, he'll pick which one he likes the best. Trailbreaker versus Trailbreaker. I'm sorry, Trailbreaker versus Trail Cutter. Blur versus Blur. And he's like, nope, this one's got to go. And he sells it. And then recoups and buys another Transformer. And he's read most of the old IDW stuff. He's seen all the cartoons all the way through now. He hasn't watched like Rescue Bots or Rescue Bots Academy. Like he's seen all the Master Force Victory, all that stuff. He's seen it all. He can rattle stuff off. And he's into Pokemon, and he watches what's that film theory and game theory. He's just a sponge, and he can rattle all like Mr. Obscure Reference. I struggle to keep up. I'm impressed every day by that kid. And then the youngest, she collects like latex appliances to put on her face to make it look like she's horribly disfigured. So we'll come home and she'll have like her throat torn out or her face ripped off or something, which is great. It's hilarious. But yeah, he's into Transformers, and I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son did the Thomas phase and the Paw Patrol phase, and the Ninjago phase is stuck around the longest. I feel for my son that Ninjago's for him is like Transformers has been for me. Like I feel like, with the amount of like at least half of his life, Ninjago's been the thing of just like this is my jam. And so I feel like, in his 20s, he's going to be like, dude, let me track down some of these Ninjago sets I built as a kid. Let me see if my parents still have those, or let me find one of these on whatever the form of eBay is at the time. Or I'm sure it'll just be like a VR chip he puts into his brain so he can recreate the sensation of building that Lego Ninjago set. But yeah, that is what I see with him with Ninjago is what I saw probably with myself with Transformers at that same age.
Mm-hmm.
Like it gets annoying at times that he'll be watching it and it's like, dude, it's time for dinner. He's like, let me just finish this episode. I'm like, you've seen this episode 6 times. You know what happens. You don't need to, I'm not going to wait and pause having dinner because you need to finish an episode you've already seen 6 times.
But this part is really cool, and I know what happens, but it's fun to see it.
It is. And guess what? You can pause it. It's on Netflix. This is not back in the day when I'm watching something on, Disney Afternoon. And if I walk away from this right now, I might never see this again. Like if I don't finish this episode of Gargoyles, who knows the next time it'll be on. But yeah, he can pause it, go eat dinner, and come back, and boom, it's magically still there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's, different nowadays compared to then is that, you can watch whatever you want and consume it however you want and, all that. So, Yeah, like my kid is a little sponge as well, where he just, you know, whatever the new thing is, that's what he, you know, likes to watch and check out and all that. So
Has it
but
been jarring for you or your kids when like things go off streaming? Like Lucas, they just took a bunch of the Power Rangers off of Netflix. Have your boys been like, what? Where did this go? Why isn't it there anymore?
yeah, there's been a little bit of that. Gosh, I can't remember what it was, but there's been a few things where, you know, my oldest was like, oh, you know, I really wanted to watch this and I didn't get a chance to see it all and whatever, and I'm just like, you know, sorry, like, you know, what can you do? So I mean, it kind of depends on what it is too. Like, if I can find the DVD set or something cheap enough, then I'll get it. But otherwise, I'm like, you know,
I feel like I'm paying for so many streaming services that when like a show does leave a streaming service, I'm just like, whoa, wait, I you know, give that back. Like the real Ghostbusters was on Netflix for a while, and then they took it
right,
off, and I'm just like, I don't have to sit there. I mean, I can sit there on YouTube and watch like, you know, the clips of the episode 10 minutes at a time to get a full episode, or maybe I'll find the full episode on YouTube. But it's like that's super freaking annoying, especially when you're doing it on a television versus on a tablet or a, you know, phone. But it's just like when it was there, just like scroll through, yep, click this one, watch it all, scroll through, find another one, click and watch it. Like, you know, it's almost more painful for you know, my son and I when we're watching a show that is streaming when it does get taken off of streaming, because it's like it was all right there at my fingertips, and now it's why can't I have it at my fingertips anymore? It's more frustrating, I would say.
see, that's why I like my favorite shows. I'll just buy the Blu-ray or DVD or whatnot, and then never watch it. You know, once I actually have
Yeah.
it.
My
So,
wife, I don't think if I showed up at the house with like a Blu-ray or you know, DVD set, it showed up in the door, you know, in a box, my wife would be like, why did you just buy that? Why, you know, like, what about all those DVDs you have in the downstairs? When was the last time you actually put those in one of the DVD players and Blu-ray players that you don't use either?
Zaldrun is saying that Ghostbusters and Power Rangers are on YouTube, like officially. I have not heard this.
They might be, but that's one of the few streaming things I don't buy and pay for.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I'm the same
I
way.
like YouTube's one of those things that everything was free on YouTube at first. So now that they make you pay for YouTube, it's like, no, screw you, YouTube, you're free. You
Right.
know, even the fact that you make me watch all these ads, you make me angry with that, because you didn't have all that when you first started YouTube. What happened to you, YouTube? You used to be cool.
So book club this week is going to be RID 33 and 34. So Christian tells me that he was there last night, so I may be peer pressured into actually showing up. So we'll see. Probably not, because I never do. But
I mean, RID books, are they? If it was more than meets the eye, then I can see more peer pressure. The RID books are just like, you know, they existed.
This arc that we're getting into in RID, though, or this arc that the book club is getting into in RID, is interesting because it's a great example of how Barber is able to plan ahead and weave just all sorts of crazy threads. Like it's good writing. It's just not as much fun as More Than Meets the Eye.
What is happening in this part of the book right now?
We're taking it way back to check out the prehistory of Galvatron.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
It's good
So,
stuff. This is probably
yeah,
my favorite section of the RID book.
a lot of Livio artwork in those issues.
I think it's flashback, flash forward type stuff where they switch, but I could be wrong at this
Okay.
point.
I feel like a lot of the flashbacks to like Galvatron's past where Livio was doing the art on those. And
I'm not a
I
big.
enjoy this work.
Oh, okay. I'm not. He got better. He got way
Yeah.
better. But
His storytelling, I always thought left a little bit desired, but I like just some of the big splash pages he does.
But yeah, book club is Sunday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Discord. And then this week for microcasters, we're going to be doing. I think we're still discussing which figures we're gonna do. So, so it'll be a surprise once again. So check us out. That's gonna be Thursday nights on the TF Talk Facebook page live.
Peter, I like it when you move to the side and it looks like Omega Supreme's waving at us.
This Omega or
Yeah,
this Omega?
the one directly behind you.
Yeah, that's which one? That's Gabriel. Yeah.
Yeah, Gabriel. There you go.
It's really
Yeah,
nice.
he's like, yeah, hi guys.
It's a great toy.
But yeah, were there any other final thoughts you guys want to add before we wrap?
I come by it naturally. My parents are weird collectors of weird things, and they have weird collecting habits, and their parents also collect weird things. I didn't get into my grandmother's Bessie P. Scottman collection. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, collections are fun. Enjoy them responsibly.
Yeah. Collecting responsibly is a good time.
And, thank you to everyone in the chat tonight. Thanks to Zaldron and to Catherine and Ron. And I think we had a couple others that commented as well.
Illmatic.
Illmatic Prime, yep. So, but yeah, thank you guys. And we will see you next week.